Some soldiers fought the war. This man seemed built for it. His story isn't a tale of glory. It's a slow, chilling descent into violence, obsession, and a mind twisted by war. And right away, here's where it starts feeling unsettling. William Paddy Mayne wasn't born into hardship. He grew up comfortable, educated, well-fed, in a privileged Protestant family in Northern Ireland. But even as a kid, something about him felt loaded, like he was wired tighter than everyone else. Bigger, stronger, quicker to snap. Teachers saw it. Neighbors whispered it. He wasn't the playful kind. He'd dominate games, shove kids aside, and stare down adults like he wasn't afraid of anything. Fights came easily. Apologies never did. It wasn't cruelty for fun, just this raw, uncontrollable aggression, like he was always one spark away from exploding. And he was only getting started. And here's where it gets more intense. By school age, Paddy wasn't just strong, he was intimidating. Rule-breaking didn't seem like rebellion for him, it looked more like instinct. If someone tried to control him, he pushed back twice as hard. He hunted animals with a cold calmness that made teachers uneasy. Not because hunting was unusual, but because he never flinched, never hesitated. Discipline meant nothing. Detention, he shrugged it off. Authority, he stared at it down. Some teachers admitted they were flat out scared of him. This teenager who looked like he could tear through walls and didn't seem to care about consequences. Violence wasn't a problem, it was becoming a habit. So imagine this, a young man smart enough for law school, but too volatile to sit still. At Queen's University Belfast, Mayne barely pretended to care about lectures. Books couldn't compete with fists. Competition, adrenaline. He gravitated toward boxing and rugby, places where hitting someone wasn't just allowed, it was expected. His aggression wasn't fading with maturity, it was sharpening. Coaches loved his power, but feared his temper. Teammates respected him, but kept their distance. Fights off the field became almost routine. You could feel this shift, like academics were just a temporary stop while something far darker was waiting ahead. He wasn't built for a courtroom, he was built for impact. And this part almost feels cinematic. Paddy becomes a star, the kind of rugby player crowds roar for. Selected for the British and Irish Lions, the highest honor in the sport. And on the field, he was a wrecking ball. Ferocious tackles, bone-rattling hits, a level of physical domination that turned heads. But the darker side followed him. He fought teammates. He punched an opponent unconscious. Coaches saw brilliance, but also a fuse getting shorter and shorter. Fans admired the power, but insiders whispered, "He's dangerous." Even among elite athletes, he stood out as someone who didn't just play hard, he played like anger was propelling him. Rugby gave him a legal outlet for violence. But it wasn't enough, not even close. And then, everything changes. 1939, war erupts. Millions dread it. But Paddy, he runs toward it. He enlists, almost like he'd been waiting for a battlefield. Military routine bored him. Marching, drills, orders, too tame, too clean. He wanted real combat, real stakes, a place where aggression wasn't a problem, it was a weapon. For the first time, violence wasn't something he needed to control, it was something the world needed from him. And that's a terrifying thought. Here's where the transformation truly begins. Mayne joins the British Commandos, one of the toughest units on Earth. Endless marches, brutal hand-to-hand combat, weapons training that pushed men past their limits. Most recruits broke down. Paddy thrived. He didn't just survive the punishment, he seemed fueled by it. Operation Claymore gave him his first real taste of combat. A raid, close quarters, lethal decisions. And instead of shock or hesitation, he felt steady, focused, almost at home. But he also felt frustrated. These missions were brief, controlled, nothing like the chaos he craved. He wanted something bigger, deeper, war without restrictions. And fate was about to hand him exactly that. And here's the moment everything becomes legendary. David Sterling, an officer with a wild vision, wanted a new kind of unit. Small teams, deep behind enemy lines, striking fast, vanishing faster. A force built on audacity. People warned him about Mayne. Unpredictable, volatile, a ticking bomb. Sterling didn't care. He wanted killers who could think, fighters who could lead. So he recruited Paddy, and together they helped create the Special Air Service, the SAS. Not a traditional regiment, but a razor-sharp tool designed for sabotage, destruction, and psychological shock. For most men, it was terrifying work. For Paddy Mayne, it felt like destiny, a place where violence wasn't just tolerated, it was the mission. This is where Paddy becomes something different, almost mythic. The SAS operated in the vast silent deserts of North Africa, sneaking across enemy lines in small teams. Mayne studied German airfields like a hunter stalking prey. He moved quietly, struck quickly, and vanished into the night. The raid at Wadi Tamet, 24 enemy aircraft destroyed on the ground, a staggering blow. Some men bragged after missions. Paddy didn't. He just prepared for the next one. His leadership was fierce. He demanded discipline, and if someone slipped, he snapped. Not out of cruelty, but out of this cold conviction. Mistakes meant death. His men respected him, feared him, sometimes both. The desert turned him into a silent, relentless weapon, someone who no longer needed rage to be violent, just a purpose. And here's the wild part. He didn't just fight the war, he reshaped it. Mayne helped pioneer tactics that special forces still use today. Stripped-down jeeps for lightning-fast raids, deep strikes far behind enemy lines, deception maneuvers that confused and crippled German defenses. He wasn't just aggressive, he was strategic, creative, almost surgical. His ideas let small teams destroy massive assets with minimal losses. It's no exaggeration. Modern special operations trace their roots back to the methods he drove into existence. Paddy didn't care about praise or politics. He cared about impact. And every new tactic made the SAS deadlier, faster, more unpredictable. The war was changing, and he was the blade cutting through it. Just when it seemed the SAS had found its rhythm, disaster struck. David Sterling was captured. The mastermind was gone. And suddenly, Paddy Mayne, this fierce, troubled warrior, was in command. The tone shifted. Missions became bolder, more punishing. Mayne led from the front, never asking his men to face anything he wouldn't. Some loved him for it. Others feared where his intensity might take them. But one thing was clear. Under his leadership, the SAS wasn't slowing down. It was accelerating toward even more dangerous territory. If North Africa were stealth, Italy was in raw contact. In Sicily, Mayne's team slipped through enemy lines like shadows, sabotaging tanks, blowing fuel depots, cutting supply arteries. But the most chilling part, he preferred killing up close. No distance, no detachment. Stories spread of him smashing a German soldier's helmet until it caved in. Others whispered about silent strangulations, bodies left in alleys, and raids that felt less like warfare and more like execution. Town after town, German units simply vanished in the night, wiped out before they could fire a shot. Mayne stopped taking prisoners. "They'll just come back," he said, and his squad followed that rule. Zero mercy, no second chances. These missions weren't about territory, they were about erasing the enemy's ability to breathe, move, or think. Even his own men admitted, in Italy, he crossed a line we couldn't see anymore. And just when you think it can't get any more brutal, D-Day happens. While the world watched the beaches, Mayne slipped into France before sunrise. His job? Crushed the German arteries, roads, fuel lines, communications. He blew up convoys, planted roadside mines, and ambushed patrols so fast that bodies were found still holding rifles. Survivors? There weren't many. Witnesses claimed he executed wounded soldiers to keep the silence intact. In one farmhouse, a German squad barricaded itself inside. Minutes later, the building was on fire and no one survived. Another mission hit a town hall suspected of housing an SS unit. It didn't just fall, it disappeared in flames. Some say civilians were used as shields. Others swear he shot anyone who moved in the dark. Whether every rumor was true or not, one thing was clear. Behind the beaches, behind the headlines, Mayne was turning Normandy into a graveyard. And then came the last chapter, Germany. Mayne led raids through collapsing cities and retreating German lines, moving faster than any map could track. In one assault, more than 100 enemy troops were left dead inside their own barracks, wiped out before they could mount defenses. In another, he reportedly beat an officer's skull in during hand-to-hand combat. Convoys were shredded, SS units ambushed and annihilated. Factories, airfields, fuel depots, destroyed one after another. He wasn't just ending the war, he was bearing its final heartbeat. Some soldiers said he looked almost calm while killing. Others said he was gone, operating on pure instinct, pure rage. By the end, Germany wasn't a battlefield to him. It was closed, the last place he could unleash everything still burning inside. And then, silence. The gun stopped, the missions ended, the medals poured in. He was praised as a hero, one of the war's most decorated soldiers. Over 130 enemy aircraft destroyed, dozens of raids, countless kills. But the chilling part, even his own men admitted they feared him. When the war ended, he didn't celebrate. He didn't smile. He just stared, like someone had ripped away the only thing keeping him alive. Victory felt less like triumph, and more like exile. And here's the tragedy nobody could fix. Back home, Mayne was a ghost. He tried running businesses, but nothing stuck. He drank. He fought in pubs. He drifted between jobs and long, empty nights. People said he'd sit alone, muttering the names of dead comrades like they were still sitting beside him. The violence that once had purpose now had nowhere to go, so it turned inward. Rage, isolation, collapse. The war had trained him to kill, but no one trained him to live afterwards. PTSD wasn't treated. It wasn't understood. He was a loaded weapon in a world that had no use for him anymore. And then, the ending. No one could stop. His car slammed into a wall. No skid marks, no brake marks, just impact. He was 40. Some called it an accident. Others whispered suicide. But everyone agreed on one thing. The war never ended for him. It just followed him home. He became a legend, but legends bleed. Paddy Mayne conquered battlefields, but lost himself in the aftermath. War didn't stop when the fighting did. It stopped when he did. So what's your take? Drop a comment, hit like, and subscribe. There's more unbelievable history coming.